So I'm now going to introduce Nick Andrews, a very suave picture of you there on the presentation, Nick. Nick, I've worked with for the past decade. He's a great friend and researcher, and is probably one of the most connected people I know in Wales. I imagine there's 59 people on here. I imagine that probably there's only about 3 who haven't met you before,
no.
Nick.
Of my age, which is much older than that photo now as time passes.
So I'm going to hand it over to you guys to continue the rest of the presentation. Thank you.
Okay, great. So it's Diane and myself we're presenting, aren't we, Diane? I'll make sure I get this right. And we're going to present on some work we did around short breaks and rethinking respite, really. And so we've recently been working with Carers Trust Wales on a Welsh Government funded commission, really, around developing a respite, for want of a better word, a respite roadmap for Wales. And we're just going to talk through some of the principles and recommendations of this report. I'm going to start by going through a little bit about the background, and then and some of the principles. We think these are so important, these principles that were co-produced with carers, and then Diane's going to go into the recommendations and pull it all together. So the report, and you can look it up, it's What a Difference a Break Makes, the vision for the future of short breaks for unpaid carers in Wales. So this report sets out a vision for creative short breaks and outlines principles which are grounded in the experience. We haven't come up with highfalutin principles. They're all grounded in quotes. And when we go through the principles with you, I want to illustrate each principle with a direct quote from carers that we've been working with. And importantly, we identified 4 priority areas, which Diane's going to go through with you. So how did it all start? It started a good few years ago now, and Daisy Cole was involved in this. We were doing some work with Joseph Rowntree Foundation around a better life for older people with high support needs. And we had sort of various sites looking at some of the research recommendations. One site we worked on was Neath and Put Talbot, and we got older people, they're unpaid carers, and social workers together, and they explored short breaks really together, respite, and how miserable it was on the whole, really, and how social workers felt bad about what they provided, and older people and carers found that it could almost damage rather than enhance the caring relationship. And they wrote poetry together. There was a lovely poem called See Me, Not My Shell. Anyway, out of that, there was interest gained across South Wales, and there was a South Wales short breaks network that was established, which again began to explore this subject further. We made links with tourism, and then went over to West Wales, where the West Wales Care Partnership involved us in a review of respite care. And again, very much starting with messages from research, but then clothing those messages of research with lived experience from carers and the people they supported. And that in turn led on to the work with Diane and Carers Trust Wales. And in parallel, Diane was doing work around research synthesis and research projects, which scoping review, which was really powerful, and her links with Scotland with Don Williamson, but she can tell you more about that. So that's the background. So it hasn't come out of nowhere. It's come out of a very purposeful, slow but sure. It's a bit of a slow burner, but it's such an important one around and grounded in what matters to carers. So I just want to really illustrate each of these principles with a quote, if I've got time, and if I haven't, Diane, you cut in and tell me to shut up. Yeah. So principle 1, see individuals and focus on what personal outcomes matter to carers and the people they support. And I think this is beautifully illustrated with this quote. The really important part of those human needs is being noticed, loved and accepted as a human being and not a human doing. And I think what I've caught already from what people are saying is you become a tick, something to be dealt with instead of a person with real needs. So there's a lot of stuff around care assessment. Is really it's almost a tokenistic exercise, and it's very procedural driven. Very, very little evidence of it being really strongly grounded in what matters to the carers. And the next principle is about building on strengths in supporting care relationships and challenging this discourse that respite is caring is a burdensome thing, and therefore all you need is relief from burden, because it creates a particular image of caring relationships, which isn't always helpful. For example, this quote, "Well, I got closer to Dad, certain barriers, if they were there at all, have just fallen away. I found that it has allowed me to see a more in-depth person behind what I thought was there. We've become much closer." This was a carer whose father had dementia, and it was the first time she had a sort of more intimate relationship with her father, which was precious to her, something very positive. The important thing of sensitivity to the caring relationship, and Diane's published on this beautifully around how we do care assessment and care assessment. And actually, we should focus more on that caring relationship and work towards making a breaks positive experience to everyone, really. So for the people being supported by carers as well as carers, there's this quote: "I know that we need a break, but I always feel guilty. Once we've gone and everything's settled, I know he's fine. I enjoy it, but the initial leaving, going, actually doing something, I find that really difficult." So this danger of guilt for carers, it's so easy for carers to feel guilty. So we've got to craft something that is positive for both. Next one, principle 4, provide accessible and timely information. This is so important, isn't it, about break options. How do you get hold of it, this information about respite? What do you do to get into a position where you can actually access resources? This was a big issue, especially when we started to explore creative options for short breaks. You know, what is a short break? It can be 101 different things. How do I go about starting that? So there's a real call for better information, and when people need it, not overloading people with information at the start of their carer journey. And the other one was offering supported choice. And we like this phrase, supported choice, because everyone talks this mantra of choice and control, but there's quite a bit of research around the tyranny of choice, really, and how choice, that if it's not supported, can actually add to people's stress. So people need supported choice. So having a Taoist website that lists 101 different things might work for some people. For a lot of people, they need somebody, they need a buddy, somebody they can talk to. When your loved one is suddenly diagnosed with a stroke, a heart attack, whatever they've been assessed with, the last thing you've got is a clear head to do some of these things you could do with a buddy or someone to point the way. So it's that relational approach to providing information. As principle 6, provide personalized, flexible and responsive break options that reflect the diversity of the carer population. This is really around bespoke, creative short breaks. And if Diane and I had time, we could share some beautiful examples with you, but we haven't. But this quote again, lovely: "The key to the door should be on the carer's side, but it seems to me that the lock is on social services side. They can sometimes unlock the door, but in general, they try to fit us into, or the people we care for, into their services, not the other way around." So there's something around that bespoke crafting of a meaningful short break. Principle 7, identify and promote creative approaches to commissioning and other statutory funded, such as direct payments, and no-cost break options. So it's really thinking outside the box. It isn't always about commissioned services. We talked about the real massive role of direct payments in this, but also all of those things that go on in everyday life in the community that are important. I said to social services, "I've got money in the pot for direct payments. Can I use that to pay for this thing that's cropped up?" And they said no, because direct payments cannot be used for that. We found that a lot, really, that direct payments are still micromanaged by local authorities and not in the hands of the people who know what's best. And principle 8, build links with the key sectors that relate to everyday life, not just social care and health. And this was so important. It came up really strongly. You know, people just want an ordinary life, really, a life on equal terms. And it isn't always all singing, all dancing things. It's the stuff going on around their local community. And thinking about breaks in terms of holidays, and short breaks are on respite and services, but think about, and that was in the Older People's Commission, again, Daisy's work with Sarah Roshira around the whole idea of, I've lost my train of flow, but anyway, the report you did, Daisy, fantastic bit of work. A new social worker suggested we could go away together and have the care we needed in a hotel. It was a revelation. So the idea that people can have breaks together, that's a novelty. Promote and support creative break options in the local community and community of interest. And this was another thing that's come up really strongly. And really, some of the peer support groups that are springing up now with carers, unpaid carers, and all the work that All Wales Forum do and other people, it's really powerful. So social services were struggling to find someone to come into our home so I could go out, but I told them about Jean, who lives up the road. She used to be a nurse, and I asked her if she could help, and she could, and that was lovely because we know her. Something around all the stuff that's going on in the local community, whether it's community tourism, just people, you know, micro enterprises, there's lots of potential there. Nurture the development of peer support. And again, this was a really powerful thing, and I think it's summed up beautifully in this quote. "I have created around us a group of carers, and I'm doing signposting just in a small personal way. So one shall tell another, and they shall tell their friends, and they tell another. Oh, you should get this and that. And this gives us a voice." So that's really important, isn't it? So the peer support is principle 11, ensure the quality of short breaks with a particular focus on what matters to carers and the people they support. And this has been a really important thing in research, going right back to the ARSCA report, going back years really, that people often don't access respite because they're worried about the quality of provision. Because with regards to respite and everything else, if everything's not in place, the attention to detail, your respite is shot. I find always something missing. There's always something missing. So it's all got to be in place. If it's not in place, it means I cannot relax. So important, the quality of the care. That's defined by people. And finally, capturing outcomes that arise from breaks. And this is an elusive but a lovely fish to chase, isn't it? And we are doing quite a bit of work on this, and Diane can say more. I think it's summed up in this sweet little poem, which came from the original group in Neathport Talbot. The wee little breaks, the little things is all it takes. It means a lot. It makes a big difference. The little things like having my hair done, the little things like going to the shop, a flexible plan where I can do the things that I can do. Yes, the little things like a life of my own. So on that note, a powerful note, I'm going to hand over to Diane.
Okay, thanks, Nick. It's really clear from this work that change is needed if we're to deliver breaks in line with what matters. So the impetus to embed lasting change and invest in stable and effective partnerships is significant, and the need to nurture caring communities and creative break options is clear. There's also considerable appetite to try new things. So we've prioritised 4 areas for development and investment to help support people achieve a life alongside caring. Firstly, we propose that regional partnership boards in Wales should each publish a short break statement that sets out their vision for short breaks and, crucially, their plans to realise this in practice. We propose that short break statements should be co-produced with unpaid carers and the people they support, and they should be outcome focused, not service led. Hence, we don't recommend these be called short break service statements as they are in Scotland. We also suggest that short break statements should be underpinned by a broad definition of short breaks that embraces the fact that breaks can mean different things to different people. Statements should encourage people to think creatively about break options. They should describe unpaid carers' rights, their opportunities to take a break, and signpost to sources of information about breaks. Statements should also highlight the difference that short breaks can make, and they should identify potential partnerships to support the development of creative break options, including, for example, partnerships with sectors such as health, arts and leisure, education, lifelong learning, tourism, hospitality, and the environment. As you know, and as we've heard throughout today, voice and control are key principles underpinning the Social Services and Wellbeing Act, and information and guidance are essential to realising voice and control in practice. And so our second recommendation is to propose a national short breaks information and guidance hub that is accessible to a broad range of stakeholders. In addition to offering a searchable directory of break options, the hub should facilitate conversations about personalised short breaks, and it should help people to make connections. Offering supported choice, which Nick emphasised is really important, the hub should provide guidance, information and inspiration to support professionals to have meaningful what matters conversations relating to short breaks. It should also highlight the range of break options, both commissioned and non-commissioned, and provide opportunities to explore new break options that are outside of the box, including community activities that can offer meaningful breaks and also peer support. The hub should also inspire commissioners and providers to think flexibly and creatively about break options. It should provide a platform to think about people to think about breaks that align with their interests, and it should offer bespoke advice and assistance. The hub should embed a what matters approach across all points of contact, and finally, it should collate inspiring short break stories and short break films that demonstrate the positive impact that a break taken together or taken apart can have. Clearly, over-specifying breaks can inhibit creativity, and hence we've proposed the hub shouldn't be prescriptive about break options, and a set menu of services needs to be avoided at all costs. Hospitality that connects people with hospitality, tourism and leisure sectors is well established in several countries. And in Scotland, this approach has been championed by Shared Care Scotland. And there's really compelling evidence of its effectiveness in supporting people to enjoy a personalised short break and in conferring mutual benefits for unpaid carers and the people they support. And through our discussions, it's clear that there's considerable enthusiasm to develop a national hospitality initiative for Wales that is underpinned by funding from the Welsh Government. So essentially what we have proposed is a franchise arrangement whereby local carer organisations engage with local businesses who are willing to donate a break free of charge, and they act as a broker to access a bespoke short break. There's no pressure on the unpaid carer to arrange the break themselves. And through this arrangement, local carer organisations are supported by a national coordination and management framework for quality assurance, and there is a memorandum of understanding. There are no costs for carer organisations to sign up, and the process to donate a break is simple. And in those instances where additional costs might be prohibitive for a carer, for example, transport or food, and there are contingency monies to support the break to happen and to ensure parity of access to a break. Then finally, the delivery of microgrant schemes and vouchers have proven really successful in Wales, including the award-winning New KISS Bridging the Gap model in North Wales, where a managed voucher scheme supports unpaid carers to access targeted support in a flexible way. So to ensure that people have access to the right break at the right time, we've recommended a national short breaks fund where Welsh Government monies are allocated on a rolling annual basis. A national coordinating organisation would be required to manage the fund and to work collaboratively and deliver in partnership with each local authority in Wales. This might be with carer centres or third sector organisations supporting both young and adult unpaid carers. So those are our main recommendations, but I think it's really important to end by emphasising a key point that's been made time and time again over the course of this work, namely that caring is a voluntary role. And in progressing break options, we must ensure that unpaid carers do not feel obliged to provide care, and their willingness to provide care and continue in their caring role must not be presumed. Okay, so having talked about the importance of breaks from caring routines and responsibilities, and some of the ways we might support more meaningful break options going forward, we're now going to see a short, but what I think is very powerful video that captures the challenges and satisfactions of caregiving in carers' own words. So the physical, the emotional and the relational challenges, and also the impact on the wider family. And for me, this video highlights very clearly the need for communities to understand and to acknowledge the vital role that unpaid carers play in supporting people with care needs. It highlights the importance of recognising carers as individuals with needs of their own, including as older adults themselves. The video also highlights the need to support unpaid carers to care for their family members, friends and neighbours, but also to enjoy a life alongside caring and to stay connected with others. And then finally, for me, the video also highlights the need to be inclusive and to empower unpaid carers to achieve what matters to them and to do the things that they value. So it's only a short video, but hopefully it will start playing now.
It's physical, so physical.
She'd always done the cooking and the cleaning.
It's so physical, you see.
She'd taken care of me all these years.
I'm learning how to shave his face.
I'm her husband, 40 years.
Well, who else is going to do it?
My daughter isn't coping well.
He used to do the bills and the fixing.
I can make a cake now, and a good winter stew.
I love him, see, always have and always will.
It's physical, so physical.
I have to make all the decisions now.
Couldn't even boil an egg before.
The responsibility. I find that hard.
Of course, they visit when they can.
They have such busy, busy lives.
My son hates to see his dad this way.
Our friends don't think to invite us now.
I've had to say, Mum isn't choosing to be this way.
Can't reach high enough to wash his hair.
We don't like to make a fuss.
He's 14 stone and I'm only little.
The lifting.
And the hauling.
She gets things inside out.
He sometimes hits.
Or spits.
When I have to change his soiled pads.
I've learnt to fix her hair.
We like to go for coffee and cake.
I like to keep her clean and neat.
He never used to swear like that.
It's tiring. Yes, so very tiring.
I have a place I go to.
A corner where I
Have a little swear and a silent scream. I sometimes wonder what the neighbours think.
She searches for the children all the time.
A different kind of love, maybe.
A continual ache for the way that things were.
It's going to be the same tomorrow.
She's taught me what's really important.
I'm so proud of the job I do.
I love her for her determination.
I've learned just how strong I really am.
30 different carers in only a few days.
It can be so very lonely.
Exhausting, yes, so very tiring.
Sometimes I feel I'll break.
You have to make a joke and laugh.
We laugh a lot and we sing.
And we have a choir.
Thank heavens for the choir.
I've learnt how to live for the little things.
The here and now. He's been my gift.
Like 40 years have been lost.
The chats we used to have, I miss.
The holidays away with friends.
That special wink he used to give.
I miss the future and the past.
I miss the future and the past.
Each day a kind of grieving.
I'll care until I drop to keep him here with me.
I wouldn't have it any other way.
If I was moving into next week,
I wouldn't start from where we are today.
I'd start from where we used to be.
But can't do that, can you?
Can't do that. So we make the best of it. The best of it.
Okay, so we have a few moments. So I was just wondering if anyone would like to share their reflections on the video. Please feel free to do so, or post your comments in the chat. Anybody like to share? Anybody got any reflections? Yeah, brilliant and heartbreaking. Very familiar. Yeah, very moving. Sad and very familiar. Yeah, and having been involved in research with carers since the early 1990s. These stories, yes, they are very powerful, but they're also time and time again, year after year after year, hearing the same stories, same challenges, and also same and familiar difficulties with services, sense of being beaten. Yeah. Okay, I'm mindful of time, so I'm going to hand back over to Daisy now, who's going to introduce our second speaker of the session. Thank you.